전문가들께서 다음번 이제 국가 사례에 대한 이제 발표가 있으시겠는데요. 첫 번째가 우리 아까 들으셨겠습니다. 루샹 루방대 일개 루방대 교수님이 이제 벨기에 시민의회 법제화 사례에 대한 발표가 있으시겠습니다. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great honor to be here, and I'm very happy to come after these distinguished speakers, in particular my dear colleague David Farrell, who paved the way for the discussion of this afternoon, and I will be continued by other distinguished colleagues. I promise you this morning to bring you to Belgium, a very small country, smaller than Seoul in terms of inhabitants, but I guess we can learn quite a few things there because of this, because as I mentioned in the title, in Belgium we are in the way to institutionalize permanent citizen assemblies. What do I mean by permanent? And we know all this way about citizen assemblies. Ellen Landborg discussed our book. I just mentioned this. This is also an interesting book. It's open access, so you don't even need to buy it. But why do I mean by permanent assembly? This is this with a colleague of mine. We try to define it. And what is interesting is that there are two forms of making permanent assembly. One is Ireland. You can have something which is repetitive. If you do it quite a few times, this is permanent to some extent. That's one way of doing it. And the Belgian way is the second way. It's just you bring it into the law. This is basically what I understand Korea would like to do. If you can bring it in the law, you institutionalize it. That's another way of making things permanent. So that's what I have in mind when I say, okay, what is Belgium trying to do? It is having this permanent citizen assembly. It's a story in 3 acts, in 3 times. I don't know the best way to say this. It's a story in 3 acts. And the first one is that setting the first stone, of course, and then I use the metaphor of a house. The second was to put the ground floor, and then, of course, building the whole house. What do I mean by the first stones? I have not much to mention, to give examples, but it's an image here of Belgium. It's small, and in Belgium, at the same time that British Columbia did have the big experience about the electoral system, which was initiated by the Parliament, by the Premier Day, what we had in Belgium in the year 2000, and that's what basically Professor Sanjay Kim referred. We had also consensus conferences initiated by government, so executive-led. We would not call them at the time citizen assemblies, the term was more citizen panel, and so if you look, and it was mentioned at STS, Science and Technology Studies, so at the time, the first stones, if you wish, in the year 2000, there were these smaller, arguably 30, 40 people gathered, randomly selected usually, to help executive decision, government. It's quite interesting because in Belgium, but I guess that's also the same in Korea, those who have power is a government. So initially, that was the idea. And the main reason of this was to fight something that is still very present today, is NIMBY, not in my backyard. We all know that in terms of public policy of developing some things, I mean, most of the people would find this is a good idea, but not in my backyard, not in my house, if you wish. And so government ministers say, okay, how can we find again this NIMBY effect? Well, let's bring citizens on board and ask their opinion. So that was the first element, very much as Sanjay Kim presented. Okay, these are the first ones. But that's not why Belgium is well known today, because this was a movement that you could see in many other places. The ground floor. These are where things get interesting, and then we have a similar history, genealogy with Ireland. And this is this image. It's maybe difficult to see. It's a bit of a funnel, so it's sincere. It's larger at the top. And the context was quite similar to the context of Ireland that David described a couple of minutes ago. It was not in Belgium an economic crisis, it was a political crisis. You might have heard 10 years ago, so 2010, that Belgium for a long time, it was actually, it worked a world record, had no government. Okay? And so we had elections, there was a parliament, but there was no government. And so it's typically a political crisis. And one of the answers was to say, okay, if politicians don't manage to form a government, and we means a group of academics, but also, and in particular, civil society people, which are people like you, said, okay, we believe in the people. We think that if politicians can make a deal to form a government, that's actually their job to some extent, it does not mean that it's actually a problem of the people. And because one element in Belgium that can be a problem, I don't know if you know this, but Belgium, it's very small, as I mentioned to you earlier, it's 11 million inhabitants, but it's a divided country, a bit like this country, I guess, also, where you have two main language groups. I won't enter into details, but these two language groups were seen as being responsible for the stalemate of not finding an agreement for the government. At least it was basically what politicians would say. It's because of this linguistic tension that we cannot form a government. And we said, well, it's not because of this. It's rather because the way politics are working that is not working. And we would like to show you that there are other ways, exactly like in Ireland. And we know, David and I, each other, from that time, that to say, okay, no, there are other ways to do this. Deliberative democracy, example of British Columbia, of other places, we should do some things. And so, I'll come back to the drawing. It was a drawing made by somebody who is quite well known. It's a name which is difficult to pronounce in many different languages, but David Van Riebeeck. He wrote a book, an essay, which is called in English, Against Elections, the Case for Democracy. He's probably one of the most famous Belgian persons, and he actually drew this drawing. In his kitchen, we are a couple of people, in his kitchen he did draw this drawing. Okay, what we want to do is this. First, we want to collect as many possible ideas, a big brainstorming, because that's what we need actually. If we believe in the people, we also believe in the diversity of their opinion. To put it in a different way, if we were not different, all of us, we would not need democracy. I mean, if we would all be the same, thinking something similar, then that's fine, we don't need a democracy. We need a democracy because we are different, because we have conflicts, and therefore it's very important to grab this and to really go throughout the society and to collect opinions. But of course, it's not because you collect opinions that you can have, make decisions. So we need to process this, and so we would need kind of a second phase, a larger group than a small group, but not the whole population discussing. This is where the G1000 will happen. So as more people as possible there, a large group there, but not the population as large. But at the end of the day, as a third phase, we also need a smaller group of people to process. Because of course, with 1,000 people, we can have many different ideas, you can discuss it, but it's difficult to really go into the details, you need some skills. And this is what we propose to do, and we did for the G1000, this is this. Now it's much more clear, of course. The first element, and it goes back to some extent to the idea of the input that David mentioned earlier. Okay, let's ask the people, anyone, what would you like to be discussed in the capital city, in Brussels, about the future of your country? What would you like? Anything, tell us, okay? So very much this agenda setting, very open. Of course, we know that if you send an invitation to everyone, not everyone will take it. And we know that there are biases that have been mentioned earlier. So some people will contribute, others will not contribute. And this is where the second step is important, because then, for the Citizen Summit, this is where we have random selections. This is where we have. Because of course, if we simply say via an election or a simple call, please come if you wish, you will only get the richer people, the more educated people, the men versus the women, for instance. And then we wanted now a very much diverse sample of Belgium, so 1,000 people, because it needed to be a large group, because that was the idea there, but not too big also, but randomly selected. So that was a Citizen Summit. One day, big deliberation, I'll show you a picture in a minute. And then after that, third phase, okay, with 1,000 people you can brainstorm a lot, you can have rich idea, a diversity of opinion, but it's difficult to go into the details. That was the idea of the third step, in-depth elaboration. Among these 1,000 people, everybody could say, okay, do you volunteer to come back for 3 weekends? So much more instances. 4,191 people among the 1,000 said, yes, I would like to come. And we did again random selections. 32 of them met for 3 weekends to continue to work on some of the topics. So that was the idea of the G1000, saying, okay, we face a big issue. What can we do? We can have the politics as usual, but we can try to bring in people. And of course, we should think of how we bring people in. Everybody can say something. No matter your color or your religion or whatever, you can say something if you wish. Then for the Citizen Summit, not everybody could come. Many people would like to come, but you said, no, it's a random selections. The idea is that everyone in Belgium had the same chance to be invited. Okay? Not because you were rich, not because you were nice or whatever, just because you were a Belgian, you could be invited. And actually not a Belgian, but because you were living in Belgium, and then in-depth celebrations. For the second phase, which is more called the G1000, here is what it looks like. In Belgium, we would say it looks like a Belgian wedding. I don't know what Korean wedding looks like, but you would find, as we saw in Ireland, table of 10 people discussing among themselves. One facilitator, the blue jacket did, not the yellow vested friends, but the blue jacket, was a facilitator saying, okay, making sure that everybody had a say. That was the G1000. It was a big event in Belgium, like in Ireland, because it showed to the people and also to the politician, okay, this idea, which sounds a bit crazy of deliberation, it works if you put it in the right conditions. And this is then now the old house. The old house, so that was the ground floor, the old house will be built on this. 2011, the G1000, 2019, the old house. What happened in between? Well, it takes time. And of course, sometimes we would like things to go faster than it does. But it took time for people to say, okay, that's a good idea. What happened between 2011 and 2019? Well, some politicians said, well, it's not so much of a crazy idea. I would like to do it. Maybe we should test it. And some parliaments did do a citizen summit. Or we will do a one-shot. Some parties in the electoral manifesto said, we should do more citizen participation. What we also surveyed, for instance, is that between the election in 2010 and 2014, for the electoral manifesto, much more parties were in favor of participation. And I guess that was because of the G1000. So people got familiar with this. What also happened after the election of 2014 is that some parties were in power. In Belgium, it's coalition politics, so only one party cannot be in power, it's usually more. And some of the people were more inclined, but especially when they're in the oppositions. 2019, things will change a bit. Let me explain to you. So that's our house. Back to Belgium. And we speak of Belgium, but Belgium exists, of course, but it also exists because it's made of different parts, where different languages are spoken. Let me explain to you. This part, this is where the majority of the population is, which speaks one language. This part is the second language, this is where I am from. And this third part, it's very small, we'll have a better view after this. People speak German. And here in the middle is Brussels, where it's based on different languages. All these places, what is important for the story is that they have legislative power. They have government, they have parliament. Very small places, smaller than a district in Seoul, for instance, but they have legislative power. So Belgium in itself is actually 7 Belgium, if you wish, because there are different layers where they have different power. But we are going here in that small German-speaking community. In German, it's called Oostbelgen, which means Belgium of the Eastern Belgium, Belgium of the East. What does it look like? It's very green, as Korea to some extent, but it's very small. It's very rural to some extent. And when I mean small, I mean small. Let me tell you, it's 854 square kilometers. So I guess it's smaller than Seoul. In terms of population, 76,000 inhabitants, so very small. But it has more power than Seoul. than the Seoul Metropolitan, because it is a parliament, it is a government. So on that very small territory, that parliament, that government, they organize the school system. So the school system is organized by that parliament, and many different things. So it is a real government in real power. But indeed, that's a question of the population, and that's an interesting discussion, because we could say, well, Ireland, Belgium, this place, that's very small. But to my knowledge, or to my feeling, is that size does not matter. Heterogeneity of the population might matter, but size does not matter. It's a matter of design, but I'll come back to this later. So this is the kind of place we are talking about. And what will happen there will be influenced by this group of people, and you will find somebody that you know, David Farrell was there. A group of experts was asked by the government of the region to say, okay, what would be the ideal design of some things? And to tell you the truth, the minister, president, the prime minister, if you wish, of the region say, what I would like to do is have a second chamber which is randomly selected. So the leader of the region said, I want to do this. And because of course there is a parliament that is elected, but I would like to have a randomly selected chamber. And so he asked this group of people to say, okay, and these people are of course the best experts who could design some things, and this group of people did this. It's a bit complex, but I will move you through this. The idea of the design, and this is where things get, I would say, interesting, and of course David will comment if he wishes at a later stage, is that, okay, we are asked, or we are proposed to say we can establish a second chamber. But this is something that no country in the world has experienced so far, and 5 years ago that was not the case, of course. Maybe this is too much. Maybe this is too much for citizens to be like parliamentarians, so we need to find something a bit different. But we also need something that is permanent. And this citizen council will be made of 24 people, randomly selected people, with 2 missions. And that's important to take this into account, because one mission, and David mentioned this, is that on the input side, agenda setting, typically it's in the hands of politicians. These body of people, these 24, they have agenda setting power. These are the people who will say, okay, what should we do? We will discuss this. But, and this is where things are interesting in terms of the process, the throughput, is that they will not decide themselves, well, they will not discuss, they will decide the topic, but they will mandate another body, a citizen assembly, to do the work. So 24 randomly selected people, okay, what should we do, what should citizens discuss, and they ask other people to do it, a citizen assembly. This is something we know, I mean the same as in France and in other countries, but instead of being asked by politicians, it's being asked by this body. I'll give you one more detail. These people, of course, of the citizen assembly are randomly selected among the population, and these 24, you can see them as alumni. To be in the student council, I told you, you need to be randomly selected, because you have participated in one of the assembly, and then after you can be randomly selected to be in student council. So those who are in the student councils are alumni, they know what's going on, of course. But of course it's also important to have newcomers, and they come in. So the design is working on 2 legs, if you wish. On the one hand, a permanent body that can set the agenda for a citizen body, a citizen assembly next to this. So citizen council, citizen assembly. I told you earlier that this citizen council had 2 functions, 2 missions. One, you know, understand it, it sets citizen assemblies. The other one is related to the output. The other lessons from Ireland, what do we do for output? Well, next to this, you can see on the right-hand side, of course, you still have the parliament, the government, so it's not going to disappear. But what you can do is that you can make sure that government and parliament, they listen to what citizen assemblies have to say. And so the citizen assembly are going to participate in public committee where parliamentarians and government members will come and listen to them. So that's one step. And then also, a couple of months later, tell them what they did with their recommendations. And the second function of the Citizen Council is to monitor the work. One could say, well, it's a pity, because you could say, well, what Citizen Assembly proposed, it should be decided. Okay, it should be powerful. In Belgium, the system is still very representative. And I would say, well, there are good reasons to keep it like this, that at the end of the day, it's the parliament that is elected that should make the decisions. But in between, you have some leeway, you have some room of power to some extent, and this is where the Citizen Council is there. The Citizen Council has not the right to tell Parliament's government, you should do something, but has the right to say, okay, what did you do with the stuff? Okay, so this is interesting because Citizen Council at first sets citizen assemblies, but then of course after that, because citizen assemblies are one shot, it follows what has happened to it at least. And maybe sometimes the government parliament say, we will not do this, but they have to justify, and the Citizen Council has to react to this. So that's one thing that is interesting with the design. But let me continue because that's one element of our house. There is another thing that is good with all this, with Belgium, is that each of the regions, as I mentioned to you, have their own parliament. And so it means also that each parliament can do something different. And so there can be a kind of a race, of course, who will be the first to do something. And it can also be seen as, okay, it's a learning process, okay? They are doing that in that. What are the lessons? What are the lessons from other countries? And in Brussels, there in the middle, and this is, of course, still small. It's 1.1 million inhabitants, so in Queensland it's still small, but Brussels, it's after Doha in Qatar, the second most international city in the world, 195 nationalities. So in terms of diversity, in Brussels you have something. I mean, you have very rich people, very poor people in Brussels. It's still, in absolute terms, quite small, but it's much bigger than the German-speaking community. And Brussels, they wanted to do something, and they wanted also to do some things, because they are different. But another region, the second largest region, wanted also to do something. And they all agreed to do what we would call mixed deliberative committees. And this is something that was, again, a source of inspiration from Ireland, is that in Ireland, David did not spend much time on this, but there was something that in Belgium at least was very impressive. It was the Irish Consular Conventions, where there was indeed, before the citizen assemblies, a convention that brought together, well, it was mentioned, 99 people, 66 citizens randomly selected, and 33 parliamentarians. And in Belgium, a bit like in Ireland, maybe like Korea, it's still very much a partitocracy. So for politicians, not to be on the board, it's quite difficult. But being on the board, not having full power, that was something that was acceptable. And so that was the idea, saying, okay, we understand that citizen assembly is important, but in terms of the output, if we want to do some follow-up, at the end of the day, it's still parliamentarians, it's still politicians that will have to make the decisions. And this, in Belgium, you would need to change the constitutions, and it's difficult to change the constitution. So in the current systems, you need, to some extent, to have politicians on board, okay? And this is what they did. It's a bit technical, but it's not only one parliament that did it, because there are quite a few, but actually 3 parliaments. But I'll leave you all the details, they are in the paper if you wish. So 3 parliaments decided to do something, which is this. You have a call for suggestions. So anyone, is similar to the first step of the G1000, could bring a topic, okay? You could bring a topic. But in this case, the choice will be made by Parliament. You could say, well, it's a pity, but on the other end, you will see that the link with Parliament is very strong, because the idea is that it's not only citizen participation, but at the end of the day, we want things that are changed by Parliament itself, so that the fact that the choice is made by Parliament eventually is not necessarily a bad news. What would it be? Well, it's deliberative committees. Initially, we wanted to call it mixed, to show this mixed. 1/4 MPs, 3/4 citizens, but it's also called deliberative committees. In concrete terms, in Brussels, it's 15 MPs, 45 citizens in one parliament. In another parliament, it's 10 MPs, 30 citizens. And why is this number important? 2 reasons why. What we knew from colleagues from Ireland, some people say, well, 1/3, 2/3, that's maybe a bit too many politicians. But on the other hand, and that's the second reason, we wanted to make it as related to the political existing systems as possible. In Brussels, the standing parliamentary committees are made of 15 people. So the idea is there. Okay, you have a topic that typically should be discussed by a parliamentary committee. You invite citizens into this. But typically those who normally hold power, they stay there, of course, because that's their role. But you bring in 3/4 citizens on top of this. What do? Well, together, so parliamentarians and citizens, they deliberate and they make recommendations. So that's very much like in Ireland, the Irish Convention, but that's the idea. They vote upon this, and then what happens is that there is a follow-up by the same parliamentary committee, by the standing committee. And so this is where you see that in terms of the articulation with the existing system is much closer than what I presented before. And one day, maybe, there will be a regional popular consultation. In Belgium, we don't have referendum, so that's why, and referendums are supposed to be binding, but we could have popular consultation, which is the same, except that it's not binding. But that could be the case. Here I come then to the last act. So that was the mixed deliberative committees. I mentioned to you that the two parliaments in Brussels, they did something, and another one. The first two, the two Brussels parliament, altogether in 5 years now, they did 6 deliberative committees. So there is now 6 that have been going on different topics. This one didn't do anything for 4 years. But then 6 months ago, it decided to do something. The regulation was there, so it could do it. And it did something which is, and it will be my conclusion, maybe the 4th act, a permanent mixed council. Remember the idea of the council, the citizen council, that was for the German-speaking community, the East Belgian community, the body on the top. And the idea there, and it was interesting because it was the first time in Belgium that there was a deliberation that was going to be on the topic of democracy. Because in that parliament, in the Walloon parliament, the question that was asked to a mixed deliberative committee was, should we get inspiration from the German-speaking model? Okay, the one that I presented to you earlier. So that was the question of this topic. And the recommendation made by parliamentarians and citizens is, I would argue, the best of both worlds. What do I mean? I mean this. Remember, we are here, and this is the parliament in Wallonia, so you have a bit more image. It's a bit like a Westminster parliament, which is not very conducive of good deliberation. But in that place, this is what they proposed. A permanent mixed council. Remember, in the German-speaking community, it's 24, but citizen only that are there. That's nice, because we know that citizens are fairly different than politicians. To some extent, they have no mandate. What is not so nice is that, well, when you have a mandate and when you do it, you have the power to do so. And so, how can you do that? Well, what about bringing together parliamentarians and citizens together? And that's the idea in there, is that there will be 10 parliamentarians, 30 citizens, that will be in a permanent mixed council. What can they do? 3 things. One is that they could decide, we should organize citizen assemblies. Some topic, well, good example, electoral systems, politicians, because they're judge and party, they should not put their hands into this, so that should be a citizen assembly. That's an example, but that's a good example. But there are also topics that, because at the end of the day, parliament need to make the decisions, it's good to have them involved from the beginning. Mixed deliberative committee. So it's a second option. So that permanent mixed council, it could do citizen assembly, mixed deliberative committee, and third thing, it could also link it with a regional popular consultation. And of course, it could imagine that first it does a citizen assembly and then a consultation, or vice versa. Why not? We should collect the opinion of the population, and then it should go in a citizen assembly. So all 3 options are on the table. So that's quite nice. And that's why I would say this is possibly the best of two worlds. Remember, the journey we together is that we first the first stepping stones are small citizens panel, the G1000, and then two main design. On the one hand, the German-speaking community is Belgium design, only citizens, and then the mixed deliberative committees, and this could be made of the two. Thank you very much.
좀 복잡한 것 같네요. 잘 모르는데 벨기에가 굉장히 복잡한 건 저도 압니다. 가본 적도 있고 그런데 지금 약간 이건 조금 가외 얘기인데 루벤 대학의 교수님이시잖아요. 근데 루벤 대학이 있습니다. 그거는 더치어로 루벤 대학이고요. 프랑스어로 루벤이에요. 똑같은 대학에 캠퍼스가 두 개가 있는데 한쪽은 더치인들이 다니고 한쪽은 프랑스인들이 다니는 거예요. 이거를 우리가 좀 극단적으로 얘기하면 이렇게 설명을 가끔 하는데 서울대 관악 캠퍼스가 있고 연극 캠퍼스가 있거든요. 연극 캠퍼스는 의대가 있잖아요. 저희는 그런 건데 이렇게 나뉘어 있는 겁니다. 쉽게 말해서 관악에는 영남 사람들만 다니고 연건에는 호남 사람들만 다니는 경우예요. 그런 나라가 지금 한 나라로 이렇게 잘 살고 있어요. 그리고 정치학 교과서에 이걸 어떻게 얘기하냐면은 컨소시에이셔널리즘, 합의주의적 정치, 다수결과 다른 합의를 통해서 정치를 해 나가려는 그런 모델로 얘기를 합니다. 그렇게 하기 위해서는 이런 복잡한 제도도 있어야 되고 무엇보다도 오토노미, 그 자율성들을 각 지역마다 줘야 돼요. 그러니까 다 다르잖아요. 이해하기가 어려운 것 같고 굉장히 여러 모델이 실험되고 있는 것 같고 일단은 자 헌법 문제가 헌법에서 입법권은 국회가 가지고 있고 또 국회가 그러니까 의회가 실제로 결정 권한이 있기 때문에 같이 나누는 그런 얘기들이 나오는데 믹스드라는 이름하에 그것도 카운실이 있고 어셈블리가 있고 그 다음에 컨설테이션이라는 것은 직접 민주주의 제도 같은 거를 얘기하는 겁니다. 레퍼런덤 같은 거. 이거를 잘 같이 섞어서 활용하는 여러 가지의 경우를 얘기해 주시는 거로 저는 이해를 했습니다. 이 어느 경우의 수를 우리가 택하느냐는 굉장히 정치적인 타협이 있어야 될 것 같아요. 그 다음에 벨기에 경우지만 지역마다 다 다르게 나타나듯이 아주 그 정치의 운영의 묘가 중요할 거라는 생각이 저는 들었습니다. 정치인들이 다 원해서 마크롱이 원해서 시작이 된 부분도 있고 여기도 정치인들이 정치적 위기 상황에서 이거를 밀어붙이는 거는 있었는데 그 다음에 어디로 가느냐에 있어서는 굉장히 정치를 어떻게 합의를 이끌어내느냐의 문제가 중요한 것 같다라는 생각이 들었습니다. 죄송합니다. 같이다 보니까 이렇게 제가 말이 길어집니다. 사실 하는데 이제